Hello everybody, welcome to our training. Victor here. As you guys very well know, we've talked about this particular SKU coming on board here very soon. It is on its way here. You guys have seen all of our podcasts where we talk about this brand new application of ours. Just a couple of things before we get started. Make sure that you take a look at the link in the chat. There is a free giveaway. Also, if you can comment any questions, we have the team here in the background ready to answer them. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask away. Other than that, here we are, 19 to 23 Silverado and Sierra, guys. Not only is this just a screen replacement, but this is going to also replace the radio in the kick panel, which means you don't have to flip back and forth between factory functions and your new Android operating system. What else? I've already gotten head start here just so that you guys don't have to sit through me, undoing a couple of screws, removing a couple of panels, but I will explain everything that we have done in this particular truck to be able to help you, do these things like you've done them before 100 times. So we'll make sure we go through every single detail. Other than that, you guys, thank you for plugging in. We do this to the best of our ability. Believe you me, we do this to the best of our ability. I mean, we've got so many different angles for you. We have so much to share with you guys. And again, if you haven't seen this solution yet, it's because we are going to definitely be delivering for you when it comes to this particular application. So what do you say we get started? First of all, what we have here in the center dash is the obviously factory radio. A couple of the tools that I will be using to remove the factory screen in this particular vehicle. Panel pop tool, T15 Torx, number 7 socket for the bottom of the glove box, a number 10 socket so that we can remove one of the modules underneath the passenger side kick panel to give you access to the factory radio. Also, make sure you have a right angle so that way you can access that 10 millimeter two nuts that are in there. I'll show you where they are. Cool thing is the camera that I have in front of me, I could move it around, so it will get a little shaky so that I could put it in front of what it is that I'm trying to show you. That way you guys could see it up front. But other than that, let's get started, guys. So first of all, in this particular application, on the side of the passenger side center console here, as well as on the driver's side, this panel on the driver's side simply just pops out. The one on the driver's side has a number 7 screw that's holding it in place. One of the things that I will tell you is I've already popped it out, but I'll show you where it is that you guys need to be careful is right here. So this section right here, it doesn't just pop out. There's actually a clip. So this panel doesn't pop in straight. It goes in at an angle. So when you take it out, you pop these out. You gotta slide it back because otherwise you're gonna break this clip right here. This one actually slides in. So just beware. I've already taken this one out as well as the one on the driver's side. So let me put this to the side. So once you do that, you will be able to lift up the center console, this area here. This just pops right out. And also underneath here, there is a harness that is plugged in to the sensor here. This is the sensor that reads your key fobs during programming. So make sure that you disconnect that before taking this completely out of the way. We have this plastic trim piece that goes all along the bottom. I use a right angle pick tool to be able to hook myself all the way underneath it. That way it isn't that hard to pull out. So that pops out right here, 2 clips, one in the middle right here. I'll leave that one alone for now. Let me get the side that's over here on the driver's side. Okay, and then I come for the one that's in the middle. So there are a total of 5 clips. This switch that you see here, this is the one that controls the Weston retractable side step. So don't mind that, but that's what that is. I'm just gonna leave that here. Next, find yourself a really good spot to remove this trim right over here. And I usually start on the bottom left with a panel pop tool right over here. So you can just do this. Get that one out the way. So now you have two T15s here, two T15s here, and then we also have two T15s down here. So total 6, 2, 4, 6. Let me grab this here. So this is a very straightforward install. There are no tricks, plenty of room behind the screen here, plenty of room behind the kick panel. It's just a bit of a, it's just tricky because you have to run those two cables from the passenger side kick panel to the back of the screen, but we'll show you all of that. So now that we got all 6 of those T15s out, we're gonna go ahead and pry that out of its cavity. There's that. Bring it down and then lift up because the bottom has a hook that is keeping this plastic piece in place. But let me get these plugs out of the way first. There's 2 behind the screen. You have your AC climate control plug. Whoever thought these security locking tabs were a good idea? I gotta call somebody at GM and tell them, if you guys know of anybody, tell them to get rid of them. Okay. So here is the AC climate control plug. So that's 3 plugs: the screen, AC climate controls, and then your buttons, your USB port, your power plug, your trailer, brake, power outlet. Those are the other plugs that we will be disconnecting for now. Okay, so here we go. Now remember, all of these buttons down at the bottom are going to get transferred over to the new screen. All of these ports down here too, these are all going to get transferred over. The only thing that you're going to keep in here is your climate controls and your screen. We're also going to be taking the vents out of this particular panel and transferring them over. You could, if you want to, take these 2 clips. You don't have to because of the weight that our screen has. Not only are we gonna screw ourselves down at the bottom as well as on the side, but at the very top, we'll show you in the box, we include 2 brackets that are gonna get installed over here for added support at the top. So you could use these clips. Personally, I'm not going to because there's enough support with the 2 bolts at the very top. So that's just my personal preference. It's up to you. You can remove them from this panel and use them on the new panel. So let me just put this over to the side. Now, from what we disconnected, the 2 plugs we disconnected from the screen, we're not going to use. You are going to use the AC climate control plug, and then everything else that goes to the ports down here, they are all going to get reused. So now that we have that, let me go over to the bench and then I'll show you basically how we're going to be transferring over everything onto the new screen. Okay, so aside from transferring this stuff over, let me put these 2 boxes. This is what's included in the box. And let me just go over this real quick, and then I'll transfer all the different ports and buttons over, and then we'll go over what's inside of these boxes. But here's what's inside of the box. You have these 2 boxes, a microphone in a bag by itself. This is the radio, and then you're also gonna get the screen with the bezel already attached to it. So let me put these boxes off to the side for now, and then we'll transfer over these buttons, and then we'll go over everything that's inside of these boxes. So starting off with the vents, 2 clips on this side, 2 clips on this side. Let me put the wings here off to the side for now. You gotta fight these, you guys. You're trying to get 2 clips out and then the other 2 fall back inside on you. So there it is. So this is the one on the right. And so we'll undo these 2 clips here. There we go. All right, so there's the 2 vents. Let's go ahead and flip this over. And so what I normally like to do is, I don't want to put the face down on an entirely flat surface, only because the knob is here. So when you put it down flat, I don't want to put any pressure on the knob. So I'll grab a box and I'll do something like this, just so that the knob is suspended in the air here. And so all you're doing is you're sliding these vents in just like you did, just like they came out from the factory. So each one of the vents has 2 slots, 2 slots on each side, on the left and on the right. These are gonna slide right in there. So as they drop in, make sure that both of them are in on each side. And this one didn't slide in. So make sure you guys line them up correctly. So here they are, these 2 and these 2. All right, so let's flip this one on its face too, and we're gonna go in and remove the buttons. Also a T15, total of 4. 1 on each side, 1 on the top, and 1 on the bottom. So this slides out, drops right in here. So we have all 4 of those screws in. Now the rest of the buttons, they simply just slide out. Find the wings that are holding it in place. This one has 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. Slide it right in. This is the USB hub, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And this is our trailer brake. These are gonna slide out. This one comes up. Just spread the wings and push up while you do that. Drops right in. And then last but not least, the power outlet. So the metal housing to the power outlet slides out. You just got to open the 2 wings so it could slide out, and then you're going to squeeze the other 2 wings so that the plastic receptacle can slide out. And so just reverse that. Put this one in first. And there's really no way to get this the power outlet into this socket the wrong way, because it's keyed. So just come in here, turn it. Once it finds its position, slide it right in. All right, so here we go. That's it for what we're taking out of the factory panel and onto the new solution here. There's your comparison. You might see some scratches. Remember, this is a temporary plastic protector that we have. Don't forget that we also have a tempered glass screen protector that's been custom fabricated specifically for these units. So if you have a customer who uses polarized sunglasses or polarized prescription glasses, let them know that you have a solution for them, and that happens to be this 15.6 inch custom fabricated tempered glass screen protector. We're not gonna go over the installation of the screen protector now. We have a video where we specifically go into detail on how to do that, but I want to show you how this baby fits right in here. Bam. So this is going to help people with polarized sunglasses, polarized prescription glasses. It'll make it a lot better. It'll definitely make the screen a little crispier too. So all you're doing is you want to do it at the time of install. We might do it at the end if you want to stick around, but you want to do it now that there's no fingerprints, there's no dust. So as you pull it out of the box and you have it on the bench, you peel off the plastic temporary screen protector, and then you install this one in its place. This is the part that's going to get peeled off and it sticks right in. So again, we have that. Again, we might do it towards the end if you want to stick around, but I'm not going to bore you with this for right now. We do have a video on our channel where you could see specifically how to install one of these. So that's what's, this is basically us transferring over all of the factory components onto the new bezel. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to show you what else is included in the box with the radio. So these are the wings. They're going to come they're not going to come snapped in. They're going to come just kind of in place. And you guys are all familiar with the blue clear plastic film that we put over this. And that's what's going to hold these in place inside of the package. So you can just kind of lift them off and, you know, kind of work with it. So we'll put these off to the side for now, but let's go over all of the harnesses and the additional components that are included in the box. So aside from the radio, the side wings, we're gonna have, this is the radio, guys. You guys are all familiar with our screens having this particular chassis attached to them, whether it be like this or like this, but you're all very familiar with our plugs all being here. Well, guess what? These now have to be separate just because of the nature of the vehicle and how it was built. But very quickly, we have the main power plug, 2 Wi-Fi antenna connectors. We have a display port, not a HDMI output. Remember, this is a video output. Can you do HDMI in? Yes, that's through a separate module, as you all very well know. But this is a display port. Inside of one of these boxes, you're going to receive a display port to HDMI converter if you don't want to use the display port, but you want to use HDMI out. All right. Now, these are all the additional plugs. This is where your additional camera inputs are. This is where your USB inputs. This is your DVR power output. So that's what these plugs are going to do. Up at the top, my top right-hand corner, it is the GPS antenna plug. Below that one, this 4-pin plug, that is the new 5G cellular antenna plug. That's what that is. This other blue one and this other white one, these are the 2 control and command signals that are going from this radio to the screen right over here. So those cables are going to be included from these 2 to these 2. So that's all you're getting from this radio to the new screen. That's what those 2 plugs are going to do. And then the other 2 black ones that are being held by a strain relief is your SIM card holder. It is long enough. Preferred location on the passenger side is where the fuse box is. So that's where you're going to want to put this just in the meantime. If you're ready for it during the time of installation, cool. If not, you can put this in an easily accessible location for future reference. All right. Now, the other one is your AM/FM antenna. It is a cable. We do include the antenna adapter. So remember, no additional third-party integration modules here. It's all included for you. So that's the chassis. That's the new chassis, the new radio. Separate from the other 2 boxes and these other 2 items is your microphone. Microphone plug now uses its own connector. It is no longer the 3.5 millimeter plug. This is a new generation HD type microphone. So it is going to give you even better sound than the ones that we previously had do, but that's just because of the nature of this particular build. So that's the microphone. And inside of these 2 boxes, out of the 2, the biggest one of the 2 has all your goodies. Okay, so let's go over this very quickly, and that way you'll be able to identify what's in here. So this bag with the list of parts, this is where your 2 Wi-Fi antennas are. I'm gonna unbag these while I'm at it. So there is Wi-Fi antenna number 1, Wi-Fi antenna number 2. We also have the GPS antenna right over here. And then, like I was mentioning to you guys earlier, the grid of connectors. Toslink fiber optic output, very important, because we have right behind me, this truck is equipped with a factory BOSE system. We're gonna be bypassing the BOSE amplifier, so you wanna stay around for that. The way that our DSP amplifier is gonna get its audio signal from the radio is through the fiber optic Toslink output. So there's one of the plugs. This is your constant power ground and ignition output. You could do up to 4 amps coming out of this plug. We have your additional backup camera inputs, a total of 4, plus your factory rear camera input. So you have rear camera in, you have left and right camera input, you have reverse camera input, and then you have front. So in addition to the factory backup camera, there's 4 more inputs. And yes, these are the powers specifically for your aftermarket backup cameras. You're not gonna be using these if all you have is the factory backup camera or the factory 360 camera system. So you're not gonna be using these additional power outlets or the other video inputs. That's your camera harness. This is your auxiliary audio video input. Here we have front, rear, and subwoofer RCA outputs. Another thing we've done with this particular truck, we've pre-installed our 1500 watt monoblock. So I already have my RCAs in the passenger side kick panel. I'm gonna be making use out of my subwoofer left and right so that I can feed the 1500 watt monoblock, which is gonna be pushing 2 12-inch kickers underneath the back seat. If you guys wanna see this truck, the way this sounds, we're gonna be at the Pacific Northwest show here in the next couple of days. So I invite you to come over and see it. We also have here, this is our additional USB input. So if you have a thumb drive or a portable hard drive, we can handle up to 1 terabyte through these input. I would recommend you do a solid state because it's definitely gonna make your life a lot easier. The faster, the better. So that's our USB input. And then we have USB input converters, depending on whether you have the IOR, IoT, factory audio systems, you may or may not be using this. And then we have your AM/FM antenna adapter. So that's inside of that main box. You're gonna use all of these harnesses, maybe not all at once, but I would recommend don't leave them out if you're not using your video inputs or your additional camera inputs. Don't leave them out, still plug them in. So in addition to that bag, we have these 2 bags. These are gonna be dependent on the factory audio system in the vehicle. There is the IOR, and then there is the iOS or IoT. The main difference between the 2 power cables is the USB retention harness. So one uses the standard micro USB on the factory. The other one uses a newer type of USB connector. So this particular harness has this plug that goes into the back of the radio, and in the other end, one has a newer type of USB connection, and the other one has the older micro style plug. You can't get them wrong because not only are these 2 cables different, but so are the power plugs. So although they look similar, they're keyed differently. So this is the main harness for both of the audio systems. So this is the main harness. The power speaker plugs, they look similar, but once you look at how they're keyed differently. Another difference is the IOR versus iOS and IoT. iOS and IoT uses a AHD only backup camera. The IOR can have either one or the other. There is AHD and then there's a CVBS. So you'll notice that the IOR has two different camera outputs. The iOS and IoT only has one. In addition to those connectors, we have our CAN bus module, the speaker plug output. This is going to be for the digital camera module. So each one of these two harnesses, we now have a digital camera adapter. So we'll take factory backup camera into here, and so this is going to convert it to an AHD signal to go into the new radio. So that's the same for either one. They both have your CAN bus plug, your speaker output. They both have the new AHD backup camera converter plug, which is right here. So that would be this one here. So what we're dealing with right behind me is a truck that's iOS, IoT. So I'm going to just kind of put this back in this bag over here. And you'll notice also both of these harnesses have, coming off the main plug, the additional wires here. Personally, we're only going to be using the orange wire, which is our amp remote turn on wire. That's the only one we're going to use. The other ones, you can tape them off. You're not going to use them 99% of the time. Manual reverse trigger. So if you want to trigger the screen into backup camera mode, even though you're driving forward and you don't want to press the camera button, I don't know why you would want to do that, but there it is, manual reverse trigger. And then we have steering control wires 1 and 2 and antenna power. You're going to be using the antenna power, not on this one. Let me see, do we have a amplified antenna on this one? We don't, but if you wanted to use an amplified AM/FM antenna adapter, then that's what you would use. Other than that, in this case, the only one we're going to be using is the amp remote turn on. So that's it for the two different audio harnesses that are in this kit. We're going to put this one off to the side. So let's keep digging in here. What else do we have, right? So our 5G antenna, I'll show you good locations for these. So you guys saw the plug on the chassis of the radio. And so this is your new 5G antenna. CAN bus and speaker module, you do want to use it. You'll lose your turn signals and chimes if you don't. So you do want to use this. So we have CAN bus and the additional chime speaker. Okay. These are the other two brackets that I was talking to you earlier. These two brackets are going to get mounted onto, they go like this. So wait 1 second. Yeah, so they'll go like this. They're labeled, okay? But you'll see it once we get in there. So one of these holes uses the factory mounting hole for the T15 Torx. The radio slides in here through the clips. If you want to remove the one from the factory, they'll slide in here. If you don't, you're fine, because these two outer holes, they're going to go through the face of our radio, and they're going to screw right into there. So the top will be held by these two screws or these metal clips and the screws. I'm okay with just the two screws. You're perfectly fine. It's better the two screws than just the plastic clips. But that's it as far as what's inside the box. As far as all of our power, all of our harnesses. Now, how does this chassis fit inside of the factory radio location? Let me go over that with you guys right now. So, inside of the smaller box, okay, there is your display port, okay, display port to HDMI out. So this is your converter cable. I would plug it into the chassis of the radio and then just kind of leave it there just in case you want to ever have access to that in the future. And then we have 1, 2, 3 mounting options for this particular chassis. So there are images for IoT audio, for GM iOS, or GM IOR. It describes it to you in detail how these brackets attach to this chassis and how it's going to get mounted on there. The one that we're going to be putting in, we talked about this one being the iOS IoT. So we're going to be using this one here, iOS. So we're gonna be putting this off to the side. Let me pull this out. Okay. So this one has 2 brackets. Here, just so you can see the screws. So 2 brackets. We put 5 screws in there, the black ones, but you only need 4. And then these 2, these are like the ones we used to use to mount the double DINs to the double DIN kits. So the way this is gonna go, and I'll look at the picture for you. So we have here the 2 brackets. So holding this here, we're gonna put this one right here. Let me grab a small screwdriver. You also cannot get this wrong, because if you were to take this bracket, flip it over, and try and mount it here, the screw holes down here are wider apart than they are up at the top. So you really can't get that wrong. So we have those 2 there. And then on the opposite end, so you'll see how this bracket lines up with these 2 holes right over here. So all this is for, you guys, is so that this chassis can hold itself inside of the factory radio housing. When I say radio, I'm talking about the module and the kick panel. When I say screen, we're going to be referring to the stuff in the dash. But this is the passenger side kick panel. So what happens is, so you see this little lever here. What's going to happen is this entire chassis is going to slide into the factory housing, and then the clips that are holding the factory radio in place are going to catch. It's going to go like this, and eventually it's going to catch. And so it's going to keep this chassis from sliding down. In order for you to slide it down, you have to push these clips back, and then it slides out. That's how the factory radio comes out. So that's the purpose of these additional brackets. So that's it for what's in the box, what we're going to be using, how this is going to mount inside of the radio location. So let me just put these additional screws in the bag, and we will move on to the next step. You guys are in for a treat, because we're going to disclose the BOSE Delete amplifier. So let me just take this out, and I'm going to take everything that I am going to use, and we're going to show you for the first time. You guys ready? This is the amp delete kit for these particular vehicles. Check out this packaging. Oh my gosh, man. I know someone's going to be happy to see this packaging. So top tray, what's inside the box? What's inside the box? 7-channel DSP amplifier. Okay. 7-channel DSP amp. Yes, it has preamp outputs. Yes, it has preamp inputs. Toslink in, which is going to come from our new radio that you just saw. That's the only plug you're going to use to get audio from the new radio into the amp. In addition to this plug, we have a remote control. This remote control will give the end user access to plus minus 15 dBs of bass, so that they don't have to go into the app and try and you know, oh, I want more bass, I want less bass, how do I do it? Yes, we have a DSP you know, app built into the radio, but to make it a lot easier, plus minus 15 dBs of bass and independent volume control. This is specifically to control the amplifier. It's not to control the output of the radio. It's not to control the bass output of the radio. This is controlling the amplifier directly. It is 5 meters long, so you have enough to go from your dash all the way around the passenger side kick panel to the back where the amplifier is going to be mounted. So toss link in, remote control input. That's where this is going to plug into, okay? So in addition to the two plugs on this side, what do we have on the other side? There is a switch, signal sensing or remote turn on. Switch to the left, signal sensing, switch to the right, remote turn on. Personally, I like remote turn on. I'm not a big fan of signal sensing. It's up to you. So aside from signal sensing or remote turn on switch, we're gonna have our power plug. So this is where the T-harness, is gonna plug into. So this is your speaker output plugs. These are your speaker output plugs. 7 speakers, 7 channels. So this is, and then we have power. So that's what these 3 plugs are. Speaker output, constant power and ground. And this is remote in, remote out. These 2 plugs are gonna connect directly to the output of the factory BOSE amplifier. You will see that in just a minute. So that's as far as the plugs and the switch on one side of the amp and the remote plug plus the toss link input. Now, what else is inside the box? Okay. We have here 5 meters toss link cable. It is right angle on both sides. And what I like about this cable is the fiber optic plug actually pivots. So if the amp is gonna be mounted vertical like this, and you plug it in, it doesn't have to face this way. Once it's plugged in, you can pivot the cable in any direction that you want. So 5 meters, okay? Now, how does this amplifier mount to where the factory amplifier was mounted? Underneath this foam is a bracket. So this bracket is what's going to accept this amplifier like this. We have the mounting kit, screw, bolt, and lock washers to go into every single one of these 4 locations. Now, I kind of had you guys there for a minute because this amp is one of the prototypes that we were using. I went ahead of myself and check this out. This is the actual amp that comes in here. I just happened to have one from previously that I was messing with. And so this is what it's going to look like once it's mounted on its plate. The top of the factory BOSE amplifier uses 2 bolts to hold itself in place. The bottom of the factory BOSE amplifier uses 1 bolt to hold itself in place. So this is what it looks like, and this is what it mounts like, okay? Now, again, amplifier, bracket, mounting hardware to put the 2 together, toss link fiber optic cable, remote to control plus minus 15 dBs of bass, volume, and yes, there is a mute button on the remote as well. And then you have your T-harness. So this is your BOSE amp bypass solution. I promise you. The best part is it's pre-tuned. So once it's installed, you don't have to go download an app, sit there for an hour and a half, and retune it. It's already been done for you. You want more bass? Turn your bass up. You want less bass? Turn your bass down. There you go. So what do you say we get started with what's in the car? So we'll leave this here for now, and we're gonna go over to the passenger side kick panel. So I've already started to remove some of the screws here. So T15, 2 of them over here. T15, 2 of them over here. 4 number 7s. 1, 2, 3, 4 number 7s down here. You cannot remove this glove box or the top one by just undoing that, because this side, sorry, maybe this one's blocking a little bit. Here. Because this side of the glove box, has another T15 behind this factory panel. So you can't just undo those screws and bolts and expect for this whole thing to pop out. You also have to remove that T15 that's right over here. Now I'm going to pop this side of the panel here. This is where your fuse box is. There goes one clip. Make sure you catch it. Put it back in. Okay. Another one right there. And that should do it. That should do it. That should do it, guys. This one was a little tighter than usual. So now there is 1, 2, 3 more T15s. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Let me bring in, how's this angle over here, John? The one that my hand is pointing at. Pretty good so far? Yeah, okay, cool. So let me finish taking this out. So this one is up there. This one's up here, okay? So boom, pop it out and it slides down. Okay, so now we have full visibility of the radio in this vehicle. Now, what I've done is I've gone in towards the bottom. Let me grab this light, and I want to try and show you guys here in detail what's going on down here. So let me grab this phone. From this perspective, there's this plug that is this plug is in your way. This module back here, this one is also in your way. So you're going to want to disconnect this plug, and you're going to want to take this module out so that you can start disconnecting the plugs from the factory radio before you attempt to slide it down. Because if you don't, that radio will never slide down because the plugs are keeping it in place. So in the past, I took a panel pop tool and I popped this plug down just so you could see it. And I'm going to do that right now again. Okay. Okay. So here's the plug. It has a lock on it. Make sure you undo the lock. And if you look at the plug, it has this tab right here. Push that in and slide the plug back. I'm telling you, this thing, the first time I dealt with it, oh my gosh, I couldn't get it unplugged. Push it in, slide it back. That plug is now out of your way. Now the other one is this module. This tab down and pull that module out. You don't have to unplug it, but you do want to pull it out, and here's why. So tab down. So the reason why we want to get this module out of the way is so that we can take this housing, the housing that it's sitting in. It has a 10 right here and a 10 up there. So let me handle those. So the bottom one is easy because it's right there. The top one is a little harder just because it's up higher. So what I do right over here, can you see this over here? I got an angle to be able to get it. So I go all the way in. So now that's all that's holding this piece to number 10 nuts. So now that that's out, you'll see how clear, excuse me, it is to see there is the factory radio. These are the plugs. So these are the plugs that were plugged into. There's a power plug. Let me pull that out and I'll show you guys what I mean. So power plug, all the USB, factory backup camera, all here. factory GPS. Where's my AM/FM? Oh, yeah, here. So AM/FM. So all that was plugged into here. These are the two tabs that are holding this chassis in place. So you push those back, and with your hand up here, you're gonna slide the radio down. So push it down from the top, and there it is. So this is your radio. Factory GPS, yellow, black, AM/FM, power speaker, factory USB on both ends, factory backup camera, data plug to the factory amp. So I would recommend that you get yourself a right angle pick tool like the one I showed you earlier, because what I did is, while this unit was sitting vertical like this in the passenger side kick panel, I went in there and I started to pull all my locking tabs out, all the locking tabs, and then I used the right angle to push the locking tab that holds the plug in place, and I started pulling the plugs out. So this will come in handy when taking this thing out. Otherwise, you're gonna have a hard time. So I wanted to show you that here instead of down there. But if you switch to the phone, so these are the two power speaker plugs. This is the locking tab. So I went in here like this, pulled it out, pushed it in, and slid the plug out. Same thing with the other one. Same thing with the factory USBs. I was able to pull the locking tabs out with this, and then I pushed in and pulled them out. So your right angle pick tool will come in handy when it comes to disconnecting these plugs. And there's the factory backup camera, data connector. So now that we have that out of the way, remember, you're still keeping these plugs, this module out of the way, because you're gonna be stuffing the new radio in there, okay? So what I'm gonna do next is I'm going to run microphone 5G antennas. So microphone, since you're already here, I have already taken off the passenger side A-pillar plastic. Don't be lazy and run your microphone here. You're gonna be in the passenger side airbag's way. Take it off and run your microphone along with the factory wiring on the back side so that you're out of the airbag's way. So what I'm gonna do now is just gonna drop this. So you have this entire cavity at your disposal. So wire management really should not be a concern. This entire cavity is now at your disposal. So I'm gonna leave the microphone up here for time's sake, but I already have my cable down here. 5G antenna right behind this vent, this area below the dash. Remember, cellular is very forgiving. It works inside of buildings. What I would recommend though is some kind of Lysol Clorox wipe so that you can wipe the surface where the antenna is going to mount. So 5G antenna on the right side. Off to the left, this vent right here, right below this part of the dash, you could see it. You can put your GPS and both of your Wi-Fi antennas on top of this vent, the air duct right behind the vent. So you can do that there. So what I would recommend is leave yourself enough slack down here so that you could make the connections to this new radio right over here. And that way, once it's all plugged in, you can work your way up to making sure that it stays up there. So that way, you know, you don't have to fight it while it's in there. But you do want to manage all the excess. So it's okay if you want to just coil this up. We've done a few trucks this way, and it has been perfectly fine. So I'll zip tie all of the excess. Same thing with my mic. I'll get what I need to go all the way up and all the way across. And I will then manage the rest of it down here. So then together, all my excess gets to stay. So there's microphone and 5G antenna. Next, I'm gonna do the two Wi-Fi antennas and the GPS off to the left. So you'll see that there is a loom of factory wiring that comes down from the back, and it runs here, which is this plug, which is the plug that we took off from the top. So that's what I will strap all of my excess to once I have the GPS and the Wi-Fi antennas in place. Bro, am I the only one who has trouble with this double side tape? So both Wi-Fi antennas, GPS antenna are mounted. You do want to use them if you want to use CarPlay with this. You do want to use them if you want to give this unit Wi-Fi hotspot from your phone. So you do want to use the Wi-Fi antennas. Now, I haven't managed this yet because the Chime speaker also could get mounted in this same location. So let me do that and I'll show you. Just because, remember, this has only, you know, so much slack to go from the Chime speaker to where the radio is, because the plug to this speaker is off the main radio's power harness. So I'll take two zip ties through the speaker like this, and I will zip tie it to the main loom of wires that's coming down. So there is how the speaker is zip tied onto the loom. You guys can see that. So aside from the antennas, Chime speaker, remember we have the two cables that came from the screen to the radio. You'll notice that the one with the white plugs, okay, the plugs are different. One's bigger than the other. So pay attention and you make sure that the smaller one goes to the radio and the bigger one goes to the screen. So make sure you pay attention to that. You don't want to run it and then find out you ran it the other way. So while I know that, I'm gonna leave the big one and leave it and run it right here. Okay. So these cables are also gonna drop right inside of this cavity. The other cable, the one with the blue plugs, doesn't really matter. It's the same on both ends. So we have both of our cables from the new screen to the new radio in place. And then last but not least, there is the AC climate control cable. So 3 cables are gonna go from this area to the back of the new screen. This is labeled GM climate cable. And the other side has a plug to the CAN bus module. Matter of fact, let me plug in the AC plug while I'm at it. So AC is already plugged in. So now that we have all of our cables in place, all the ones that are going to come from here and go towards the passenger side, I can start to wire manage all of the excess. Let me switch over to the phone angle just so we could kind of go over this. So GPS, Wi-Fi antennas right up there, all the excess. This is the 3 AC cable, LVDS cables, all 3 of them right over here, all come down through the factory harnessing. And this is kind of where I would leave all my plugs ready to go into the new radio. That's just to give you guys an idea. What else do we have left here? So let's talk about the factory backup camera module. So there are some trucks that are going to come with single backup camera and some that are going to come with factory 360. So the module has dip switches. The top of the module tells you what to set them for if you have just the rear camera or for models with 360. Right now, we are set up for just the rear camera. Switches 2 and 4 down, 1 and 3 are up. So then what I would do, just because obviously it's a box, I would find the backup camera plug, which is this orange one, and I would leave that last, just easily accessible, because we still have this plug that's gonna go to the main harness, and the video output of this is gonna go to the video input of the radio. I would now just get on with, so auxiliary input, brown plug right over here. One side goes to the radio, the other side goes to the factory, and this is your second option into the glove box. So it's the black one. So remember, I have my RCAs for our sub amp, and I have remote wire already back here. Just gonna leave those off to the side. So I'm plugging in what matters most so that I can get the chassis into its place. My antenna adapter. So let's get our main power plugs in place. So we already have our Toslink cable in place and ready to go. Right angle. Remember, once you mate these, you can turn them. And then what I like to do is put some tape over here just to keep these plugs intact. Okay, so now I'm going to start to make these connections into the chassis of the radio, GPS and Wi-Fi antennas, our new screen plugs, our 5G USB input, our audio harness, auxiliary input harnesses, and additional USB going to come in and stay inside the glove box. AM/FM. AM/FM, since it's a cable that hangs, I'll leave the antenna adapter hanging, and that connection will be made last. I'm trying to get everything plugged into the back of the radio that doesn't require it to be out here, so I can make all my connections last down at the bottom. So my Toslink cable, backup camera, my display port extension. So remember, even though this chassis is going to slide up, give me 1 second. So even though it's gonna slide up, the bracket that we added earlier is gonna be towards the back like this. So even though this is gonna slide up into this cavity, you still have access to your harnesses over here just for wire management. The idea is get all your plugs in so you can slide the chassis in there and then make the rest of your connections, instead of trying to complete everything out here and then have trouble getting it all in there. So here's my main harness, main power plug. Okay, so now that we have that in place, we can start to make its way up into where it belongs. Remember, we still haven't plugged in our CAN bus module. We still don't have, but we still have access to all of that down here, even after this has gone into its new resting place. So that's locked in place. So now that we have our chassis inside of the new location, we could now work with the rest of our wires that are down here and handle some wire management. But for the sake of time, what I'm gonna do is let me plug in my AM/FM. So now I still have all my CAN bus plugs, backup camera inputs right here. So once the chassis is in place, guys, it's so much easier to wire manage because you can now start, putting things where they're gonna ultimately rest. The SIM card holder, I like putting it right on this side of the fuse panel, just because if the customer wasn't ready at the time of installation, then all you have to do is pop the panel here out to gain access to the SIM card holder to be able to slide it in there, and you don't have to take it all apart. So I like leaving that here. And then I'm gonna bring up everything as far as pre-outs goes, front, rear, sub, out. And then I'm gonna make my subwoofer connections. So ultimately, you wanna get most of the cables that are here up into this cavity right over here. That way, the entire bottom is nice and clean. So now I could bring my remote turn-on lead and my subwoofer RCA cables up so I can make those connections back there. And so the reason why I'm running subwoofer out of the radio and not necessarily trying to pull any tricks with the DSP amplifier, it's because I like having subwoofer gain controls directly off of the radio instead of trying to go through an app. So there's remote turn on. All right, so now let's go with our CAN bus module. One comes from the back of the radio to control climate, and the other one comes from the main radio harness to handle all the vehicle integration functions. That kind of zip tie the CAN bus module up there, but first let me get my speaker plug. So now the only thing left to do back here is our backup camera module, which is right here. And now we're gonna get the backup camera plug from the factory. Video out of the module into reverse input. So we have everything plugged in. We could now wire management. I mean, we could work that out later. I think for sake of time, we could get into the BOSE amp replacement. Remember, our Toslink cable is already back there. Our remote cable is already back there. But before we do that, actually, let's get the screen in here just so that we could get that part going. All right, team, so here we go. These mounting brackets that you guys saw, you see these two these two little stubs that are popping out. There's a big hole and a small hole. Big hole goes into the stub on the right side, and then use the factory T15 to hold that in place, like this. Okay. Left side goes the same way. Starting at the bottom, climate control is already in. So remember, plenty of room. Nothing gets stressed. So for now, I'm going to use 2 of the factory 15s to hold the radio in place. So now that that's in place, the last thing to do when it comes to this is for you to snap these ears in there. All right, but that's just, we'll leave that out for now. We'll go to the back and get the amplifier rolling, guys. That should take, once you have the cable, your Toslink cable remote turn on already there, and your Toslink remote control already in place, all you need is a number 10 socket to take the factory amp out. Now, to get the back seat out, all right, just to kind of give you guys an idea here, you don't have to take the bottom cushions out. There, if you lift this entire seat up from underneath, you'll be able to get 1, 2, 3, 4 10mm bolts that are holding the bottom part of the back seat in place. That's the one thing at the bottom. At the top, you have these things that go through the seat. You could see it, barely see it over here, but these things drop and they hold the seat in place. All you have to do is grab a metal panel popper and to all 6. So passenger has 2, center passenger has 2, driver's side passenger has 2. You'll notice that these have this thing right here. So when they drop in with this locking tab facing forward like this. So all you have to do is push the seat cushion down, push these things in and pop them out. All of them pop out the same way. There's 6 of them. So 4 bolts at the bottom, these 6 stems at the top, and then you have these latches up here. Oh, you can't see it. John, do you want to move it up a little bit? Move it up a little bit. Can you see where my hand is up here? No, huh? Can you move it up or no? No? All right. So there's 3 latches. 1, 2, 3 latches at the top. You have to take a right angle pick tool and release the top of the back seat by pulling up on these latches. So there's 3 at the top, 1 on the left, 1 in the middle, 1 on the right. Then you can take the entire back cushion out. Then you have access to the amplifier here. Here's my remote turn on. And so all I'm gonna do right now is disconnect the amp. Out with the old, in with the new. But before I mount the new amp, I'm gonna make sure that that's all plugged in. Give me 1 sec, grab that harness. Speaker out and power in. The other 2 don't get used. We'll end up tying these over here to the side, and then we'll bring these up to the top. Now that that's in, we can put bolts back in. And then here we have Toslink cable and remote ready to go. And then I'll end up adding another zip tie just to hold the rest of it in place right there. Okay, so we have ignition on. Radio's already on. Red should be remote in. Oh, there we go. So red is remote in. I was just set incorrectly on my switch. So let me pull that back out and make that connection properly. Cut my remote out since I'm not going to be using it. There we go. So our amp is on. We'll go to the front. All right, guys, so here we are. Back to, we'll turn on the radio. We have static. Let's go through our presets. So there's our audio. Okay. So the audio is already playing. Let me just, okay. And so I have here, I'm gonna turn up the volume and turn it down here. Here's my volume down. Volume up on the remote. Plus minus 10, 15 dBs on my bass. And there's the mute. Cool. So we're up and running. The only thing that would be left to do here is obviously steering wheel controls, track up and down. I'm already functional. I'm sorry, volume up and down. I'm already functional. Preset up and down. So that's preset. So that's seek up and down. That's preset up and down. Okay. So preset up and down is already functional. The only other thing to check here would be to turn it on. Check our backup camera. We're inside of a bay. So I think that, John, you want to just skip that for now? Backup camera. We have to start the truck. Yeah. So we'll go on. You know what? I'm going to set it back to the way it was. I'm going to use reverse because I just remembered, guys, there is a settings on the radio where you have to tell it the resolution, and that's important for all of us to know. So let me just go back to the way I had it, and I'm gonna go ahead and change the resolution settings in our video menu options to make sure that wasn't what was keeping us from working. So 1080 is correct. Where is our, okay, so 30, so 1080, 30 frames per second is where you want to be. So that's actually set correctly. And there's our backup camera there. Okay, cool. So just heads up, after installation, if you don't get the image to play correctly, make sure that you come into system settings. Under display, you have rear camera type, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different options. Make sure that the factory one you selected 1080p, and make sure that in the previous menu under rear camera frame rate, you're at AHD 30 frames per second. And that's what's going to get us to have our backup camera fully functional. Let me just turn this off because we are still inside. Okay. So we had, where is, okay. So inside of the climate control functions, we have dual temp. So this is the auto AC. So you want to go into car settings. We're going to go into setting guide all the way down to factory settings. The code is still 1660. We're going to press OK. In here under car model AC, it's currently set up to General Motors manual AC. We're going to make sure that we select auto AC and that we select 19 through 14. It's going to ask us to confirm. We should now have full control of the climate controls. Fan speed up and down. We also have temperature up and down. Sync is on, so passenger and driver have independent temperature controls. Turn sync off. When you start adjusting, the passenger sync turns off. So now you have independent. Sync on. Both will basically match the driver side. So turn the AC off. So guys, other than that, I mean, as far as, you know, installation, at this point, it's a matter of making it all look pretty, putting things back together again. You know, we've all been there. I think that, you know, installation wise, realistically speaking, to do something like this from start to finish, including putting it all back together, I'd say 3 to 4 hours, because you are going back there to completely pull the amplifier out. You are running your Toslink cable from the front of the vehicle to the back. You are running the remote. You know, you are having to manage all of the wiring in the passenger side kick panel. So realistically speaking, you do want to be at about 3 to 4 hours start to finish. If this was a non-BOSE model and all you're doing it here, I'd be anywhere between, I'd be at 3 hours easily, you know. But other than that, John, am I missing anything? Any questions, any concerns? Thank you guys for sticking around this long. I think that, you know, I think it's one of our longest installs, right? But other than that, I mean, we had to show you all the details. I don't like leaving anything out, only because I don't want to make it seem like it's 45 minutes, you're in and out the car. I wanted you guys to see everything that is involved with making this thing happen. And again, you know, we're here to deliver and to make sure that, you know, we show you everything. Other than that, I think that, you know, comment, ask us. If we missed anything, we're more than happy to chime in and, you know, answer your questions. We'll see you guys on the next one.